Good luck proving it. See you in court. That was the message Delilah Mercer sent me at 3:03 p.m. 2 hours after I'd fired her for embezzling over $50,000 from our client accounts. I was alone in my office on the top floor of Hallicor Capital, overlooking the Denver skyline. 23 years ago, I started this company with $12,000 in savings and a rented 200 square foot space. Now we manage over $200 million in assets for nearly 600 clients, from retirees to corporate executives. I used to believe every success could be tracked in numbers, until today. My name is Griffin Hale. I'm 49 years old, founder and CEO of Hallicor Capital. For over 2 decades, I've lived by one principle: integrity or nothing. As for Delilah Mercer, she was the employee I trusted most. Joined in 2018, sharp with numbers, excellent with clients, and had a kind of confidence that made people like her. I once saw her as a future partner. That may have been my first mistake. It started with tiny discrepancies. $1,000 missing from a retired doctor's account, $1,700 unaccounted for in a high-volume portfolio. No one noticed, except me. When I questioned it, Delilah always had an answer: system glitch, bank transfer delays, or it'll adjust next cycle. I wanted to believe her. That was my second mistake. I began documenting every error, every response, and had that backup 18 months of transaction history. I also called Caleb Foster, a forensic accountant and former FBI investigator who helped me once before. I didn't accuse Delilah, I just wanted the truth. But something in my gut told me I was looking into an abyss, and what I'd find on the other side would change everything. Then came the message: good luck, see you in court. I nearly dropped my phone. No apology, no defense, just a blunt declaration of war. She wasn't denying it. She wasn't hiding. She was going on the offensive. I forwarded the message to Caleb with a short note: she thinks she can win. He called me 5 minutes later. Then we need to be absolutely certain. I'll be at your office tomorrow morning. Bring your servers and every single statement. I stood from my desk and looked around the office, plaques, old photos, and the metal sign engraved with, "The client always comes first." Delilah didn't just betray me, she betrayed everything this company was built on. A $68,000 salary doesn't buy a new Chanel bag unless you win the lottery or you're spending someone else's money. It was a quiet March evening in the Hallicor office. Everyone had gone home. I sat under the pale blue glow of my screen, scanning spreadsheets. The numbers flowed like water, until one cell stopped me cold. Henry Caldwell's portfolio, age 78, showed a recurring $1,200 deduction marked temporary operations fee. That category didn't exist. The portfolio was handled by one person, Delilah Mercer. Henry, a retired Air Force pilot, once gifted me an old engraved lighter in gratitude for helping him feel secure in retirement. I'd promised to treat his money like my own. Delilah? She was still the office darling, proactive, personable, sharp with clients. I'd bragged about her to the board more than once. I believed I was mentoring the next generation of leadership. Maybe I was just fattening the fox. Then came the BMO. She pulled into our team meeting last month in a 2022 30i, replacing her battered Honda. No one said anything, but Travis, my co-founder, nudged me in the elevator. Maybe she hit the Powerball. I laughed politely. That laugh faded the following week when she strolled in with a brand new Chanel bag. Price tag, $6,000. Still salaried at just over $500-600 a month. I started paying attention. She booked a 5-star suite during our Chicago trip. On the company IG, I noticed private photos of her dining at a 200-plate steakhouse in Denver. Her story changed. First, it was a grandmother's inheritance. Then it became a great aunt. Then land from a cousin in Kansas. I checked public records. No such inheritance tied to any Mercer in those counties. It wasn't the purchases that alarmed me. It was the changing stories. Innocent people don't shift their narrative that often. I went home, pulled out an old leather journal, and began writing it all down. Each lie, each inconsistency. Then the patterns emerged. All discrepancies occurred in portfolios belonging to elderly or offline clients. She worked late only on nights when transactions spiked. Within days of each anomaly, She showed up with a new luxury item. I compiled everything into a folder labeled Mercer, Shadow Activity. Doubt became certainty. At lunch, I handed it to Caleb Foster over tacos. He read in silence, then said, "I'll need access to your deep dive analytics, and I'll start tracing IPs." We skipped dessert. Back at the office, I paused before our mission statement in the lobby. Clients are the heart of Hallicor. I whispered to myself, if she did this, she planned it a long time ago. And I wouldn't let Hallicor become the corpse of someone else's ambition. $53,427 across 18 months. And that's just what we can prove. Caleb Foster's voice was flat, like a sentencing. The next morning, I walked into Caleb's office in Denver's old financial district. It looked more like an interrogation room than a CPA firm. Whiteboards covered the walls, plastered with post-it notes, arrows, and scribbles. Shell Corp? Elder clients. Pattern confirmed. He'd worked all night. Caleb Foster isn't your typical accountant. Former FBI white-collar crime unit, now runs his own forensic consultancy. He doesn't speak unless it's data, no opinions, no guesses, just evidence and facts. Delilah skimmed money from 9 different client accounts, Caleb said. All older investors or high-volume clients, the kind that don't check detailed reports. She didn't steal in bulk. Just small, precise amounts, enough to hide in the noise. This wasn't an accident. It was a system. Caleb handed me a money trail chart. Each withdrawal was masked as a restructuring process fee, routed to a company called Argent Advisors, LLC. The company had been registered in early 2023, exactly 3 months after I granted Delilah access to our portfolio backend. Registered owner? Chase Donovan, Delilah's boyfriend, a freelance marketing guy with zero finance background. She didn't just embezzle, she engineered plausible deniability, Caleb said. Her name doesn't show up. She used him as a human shield. I stared at the timeline taped to the wall. Delilah had sat across from me in partner track meetings while draining our most vulnerable clients blind. I clenched my fists. Do we have enough to prosecute? Caleb shook his head. Not yet. It's strong circumstantial, but not airtight. If she lashes out after termination, that could give us what we need. I left his office at 10:47 a.m., my head pounding. Travis was waiting at the parking lot. I didn't say much, just, she betrayed all of us. He put a hand on my shoulder. Then it's time we return the favor. You're making a huge mistake, Griffin. That's what Delilah said as I slid the termination letter across the table. I didn't respond. I just looked into her eyes. Cold, steady, nothing left to say. Internal conference room, 12th floor of Halcor Capital. Tuesday noon, overhead lights glinting off the dark oak table. Delilah, me, Travis, Janet from HR. No fluff, no agenda, just closure. Delilah walked in calm as ever, neutral to lipstick, hair tied back, tablet in hand. She thought it was another portfolio meeting. She didn't know this was the end. I once admired her. Now I saw a con artist sitting 3 meters away. I need you to transfer all active accounts by end of day, I began. What's going on? Still calm, still composed. There are irregularities under your management, Travis said. 53,427, I added. She paused, just long enough for me to know she understood exactly what was happening. I don't know what you're implying. If something's off, it's a system glitch. You have the right to remain silent, I replied. Janet slid the envelope forward. This is retaliation, Delilah snapped. Just because I raised concerns about your investment team? You filed no such report, Travis cut in. She turned to me, eyes sharp now, weaponized. I won't let this slide. You'll regret it. She stood, no tantrum, no breakdown, just one line. You messed with the wrong person. 2 hours later, I got her message. Good luck proving it. See you in court. That evening, my legal team received a formal notice. From Lincoln Hayes, I knew the name. Specialist in whistleblower retaliation suits. Dangerous. We met at 7 p.m. Me, Gordon, Caleb, Travis. Gordon exhaled. If she builds a retaliation case, we don't just have to prove theft. We have to prove our intent was lawful. Caleb nodded. And she's smart. She's playing the victim now. The problem is, She still has one move left. What is it? I asked. She thinks she's invisible. I stared out into the Denver skyline. Delilah wasn't an employee anymore. She was an opponent, not just clever, but protected. And if I wanted to defend Halacor, I couldn't rely on justice alone. I needed undeniable truth, whatever it took. Nothing prepares you for the moment you become the villain, especially when the accuser is someone you once saw as your successor. 3 days after Delilah's termination, I received an email from our legal team. Subject: Notice of Wrongful Termination Claim, Delilah Mercer. Attached was a 9-page letter from Lincoln Hayes, alleging that I and Halacor retaliated against a whistleblower who dared to question our internal practices. I'd heard of Lincoln Hayes, a courtroom tactician who weaponizes public morality. He doesn't need hard evidence, only a compelling narrative. She was just a brave young analyst, punished for telling the truth. That night, Delilah posted on LinkedIn, "Doing the right thing can cost you everything, but I'd still choose truth." Gordon called an emergency meeting. "She's building a whistleblower narrative. If we fumble this, the EEOC will investigate, and we could face a multi-million-dollar lawsuit." He looked at me. "Did she ever report anything before she was fired?" "Not once." "Any emails, recordings, complaints?" "Nothing." Gordon exhaled. "The press will believe her first." Delilah didn't stop at one post. She hired a PR firm specializing in social justice victim stories. On Twitter, she was dubbed the analyst who dared to speak. A podcast invited her to talk about fighting for truth. Meanwhile, I received emails from worried clients. Some threatened to withdraw funds if this became public. One afternoon, I stood in our boardroom watching her interview on the biggest screen. "I didn't want to lose my job. I just wanted justice for the clients," she cried. The ticker below read, "Exclusive, former employee speaks out." Caleb entered. "She's playing media first, courtroom later," he said. I clenched my jaw. "Good. Let her think I'm doing nothing." Caleb laid a printout on the table, an audio transcript of Delilah's boyfriend, Chase Donovan, admitting she orchestrated everything. "Not enough to convict yet," Caleb said. "But if she keeps thinking she's untouchable, she'll slip." Gordon advised a full media blackout. No statements, no engagement, let her climb. Back in my office, I wrote in my journal, "Let her build the stage. I'll burn it down with the truth." Delilah had launched her first offensive, but the real battle, I was preparing it silently. My girlfriend works at Halacor. She said I just needed to sign. Chase Donovan had no idea that with that line, he'd just dug her grave. Thursday morning, Caleb walked into my office with a strange proposal. "Give me 48 hours. I'll reach out to Chase Donovan, not as an investigator." I raised an eyebrow. "As what?" "A business owner in need of third-party financial consulting." He smiled. "The plan, bait Chase into a meeting. Record everything. Chase Donovan, 26, boyish charm, the kind who talks first, thinks later." According to Caleb, Chase once freelanced in graphic design, no finance background. And yet, he owns Argent Advisors LLC, the shell company receiving tens of thousands from Halacor clients. They met at a quiet coffee shop in Capitol Hill. The conversation started light. Chase was chatty, open. "What does your firm do?" "We handle fund transfers between portfolios, SEC compliant, of course." "Do you run it alone?" "My girlfriend set it all up. She used to work at Halacor. She knows how it runs." Caleb played dumb. "Wait, Halacor Capital? I know them. Did you sign any contracts with them directly?" Chase waved it off. "Nah, Delilah said all I had to do was register the company. The payments just come through. They hate paperwork." All recorded. When Caleb played the audio back for me, I sat in silence for half a minute. It wasn't just that Chase was involved, it was that Delilah orchestrated everything, even manipulating her boyfriend into laundering the money. "She used Chase as a human smokescreen," Caleb said. "But now he's our star witness." Gordon listened, then nodded. "Still not enough for indictment, but with this and Caleb's forensic tracing, we've got leverage. We could go legal or federal." I shook my head. "Not yet. She doesn't feel threatened. Let her keep thinking she's untouchable." I stared at the empty parking space where her BMW used to sit. She thought she controlled every angle, but the weak link was sleeping next to her the whole time. I exhaled. Keep acting, Delilah. The bigger the stage, the harder the fall. 2:14 a.m. An alert popped up on our internal server dashboard. Unauthorized access detected, user D. Mercer. She had just made the mistake that could put her in federal court. I got the call at 6 a.m. from Martin, our head of IT. You need to see the access logs. Something's wrong. I opened my laptop. There it was. Time 2:14 a.m. Device, personal laptop. IP, Delilah Mercer's home. Files accessed. 3 client portfolios she had previously embezzled from. Martin never calls unless it's serious. She used her old login, should have been disabled. Why wasn't it? I asked. She left behind a remote access tunnel, Martin said. We missed it. Delilah had outsmarted us again. But this time she got caught in the act. I called Caleb in immediately. He reviewed the logs. She didn't just access the system, he said. She went after the exact files she claims to have never touched. Gordon leaned in. This is textbook unauthorized system access, a federal offense. I nodded. It's time to flip the board. We had an 8-to record, all metadata. IP address, timestamps, click sequences, file names, attempted edits. Caleb passed it to an external digital forensics firm for certification. Meanwhile, Gordon began drafting a report to Agent Helen Foster at the Denver FBI field office. I watched the command line scroll across the monitor. She tried 3 times. On the 4th, the system locked her out. She didn't succeed. But attempting to access an employer system post-termination is an irrefutable trail. Caleb said, innocent people don't hack into accounts they swear they never touched. Halacor's legal team filed for emergency protections and prepared criminal filings. Gordon called Lincoln Hayes. We're preparing to submit digital evidence to the FBI. Hayes was quiet for a long time. Give me a few days to speak with my client. Gordon glanced at me. Translation, she's getting ready to fold. I stood by the window watching the golden light break across downtown Denver. I whispered, you wrote your own verdict, Delilah. I just read it. We had physical evidence, testimony, and now digital proof, a direct ticket to the Bureau. April 16, 900 a.m. Delilah Mercer was handcuffed on the steps It's on the steps of her home in Cherry Creek. A local news camera caught her bowing her head, eyes red. Do you have anything to pay me? A reporter shouted. She said nothing. I didn't need to. The truth already had. We handed everything over to Agent Helen Foster of the FBI. She was blunt, no nonsense, evidence-driven. 3 days later, Delilah was arrested. Chase Donovan's apartment was raided. Laptops, hard drives, phones, all seized. He cracked in the first interview. Chase Donovan, once Delilah's pawn, began spilling details. Where the money went, who gave the orders, how Delilah used internal passwords to alter Halacor records, a direct hit. I just did what she told me, he kept repeating. Delilah refused to speak. No cooperation, no confession. Her lawyer tried to negotiate. If she tells everything, we'd like leniency. FBI declined. Too late, we have enough to prosecute. The media erupted. Headlines everywhere. Ex-Halacor analyst arrested for embezzlement. Ambition and deceit. A startup's fall from grace. I got interview requests. I declined all. No need to explain. I let the facts speak. At her first hearing, the judge announced, Delilah Mercer is charged with 4 counts: wire fraud, unauthorized access, falsifying records, and money laundering. Maximum sentence, 18 years in federal prison. She stood still, no defiance, no moral tears, just a girl overtaken by greed, now facing justice. Halacor recovered. We reimbursed every affected client. Confidence returned. I appointed Caleb as COO. I stepped back from day-to-day, focusing on long-term vision. Gordon told me, you didn't just save the company, you protected your integrity. One weekend, I wrote in my journal, it's easy to get angry, harder to stay still, hardest of all to let the truth work its course. I didn't need revenge. I just needed to stand for what's right. And in the end, right won.